Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that a day you thought was all about flowers, chocolates, and romantic dinners actually began with ancient rituals, secret weddings, poetry about birds, and centuries of changing ideas about love. That is exactly what we're diving into today, because Valentine's Day is much more than a modern celebration. Welcome to English Highlights, where we explore real stories behind everyday topics in clear, engaging English. I spend my time breaking down history, culture, and ideas so you can understand them easily and enjoy learning at the same time. And today's story is one that connects the past and the present in a surprising way. Most people know Valentine's Day as a celebration of love and romance. Every year, shops fill with red hearts, couples plan special moments, and messages of affection travel around the world. But very few people stop to ask where all of this actually came from. Why is it in February? Why is love the main theme? And how did such an old tradition survive and transform over thousands of years? This matters because understanding the history of Valentine's Day helps us see how culture changes over time and how human ideas about love, relationships, and connection continue to evolve. This story affects everyone, whether you love the holiday, ignore it, or even dislike it, because it shows how society shapes the meaning of love itself. To truly understand Valentine's Day, we have to travel far back in time to a world that looked nothing like ours. Long before greeting cards and romantic dinners existed, ancient Rome was one of the most powerful civilizations on Earth. Roman life was deeply connected to religion, tradition, and community rituals. People believed their gods controlled health, harvests, and safety. So festivals were not just celebrations, they were serious events meant to protect society and ensure survival. One of these festivals took place in the middle of February and played a key role in shaping what would later become Valentine's Day. This festival was held during a time of year when winter was slowly ending and people were thinking about new life and the future. It focused on health, fertility, and protection from bad luck. Priests led public ceremonies that may sound strange to modern ears, but to Romans they were meaningful and powerful. The purpose was not romance or emotional love, it was about strength, family, and continuity. People wanted healthy children, strong communities, and favor from the gods. This was love in a very practical sense, connected to survival rather than feelings. During these celebrations, the city came alive. Streets filled with people watching rituals and taking part in shared traditions. There were moments where men and women were paired together, not because of romance, but to symbolically represent connection and future growth. These pairings were temporary and social rather than emotional. There were no handwritten notes or secret gifts. Love was not expressed through words, but through actions meant to bring good fortune. Over time, as Roman society changed and new beliefs spread, these old festivals slowly faded, but their timing and focus on human connection in February remained in people's memory. As we move forward into the Middle Ages, life in Europe changed again. Society was organized around strict social classes, and daily life was heavily influenced by the church. Most people lived simple lives, but stories and music played an important role in shaping dreams and values. This is where the idea of romantic love truly began to grow. Writers and poets started describing love not just as a duty or family arrangement, but as a deep emotional experience. One popular concept during this time was often called courtly love. This was a kind of idealized love written about in poems and songs. It usually involved a devoted admirer and someone placed on a pedestal. The love was emotional, loyal, and respectful, often more about imagination than real relationships. These stories were powerful because they introduced the idea that love should be meaningful, emotional, and even beautiful. This was very different from earlier times when marriage was mainly about alliances and survival.
During this period, people also began to associate love with a specific date in February. A common belief was that birds started choosing your partners around the middle of the month. This idea connected nature with human emotion. Writers used this image to suggest that love was part of the natural world. One poet's work became especially influential, helping spread the idea that February was a time for romance. As these stories traveled, people slowly began to exchange messages expressing admiration and affection on this day. These early messages were simple and personal. They were handwritten and thoughtful, often focusing on feelings rather than physical gifts. Love was still idealized and not always practical, but the emotional connection was growing stronger. Even people who could not freely choose their partners found comfort in these romantic ideas. Valentine's Day was becoming less about ritual and more about expression. Now let's pause for a moment and imagine a young person living during this time. There is no internet, no phones, and no easy way to communicate feelings. Writing a short poem or message takes time and courage. That small piece of paper carries hope, admiration, and vulnerability. This simple act of expression helped shape a tradition that continues today. And this is where the story takes another major turn.
By the 18th century, society was changing quickly. Literacy increased, printing became more affordable, and communication became easier. People started expressing their feelings more openly, and Valentine's Day began to look familiar. Instead of only handwritten notes, printed cards became available. At first, many people still made their own cards by hand, decorating them with care and creativity. These cards felt personal and meaningful because they required effort. As printing technology improved, businesses saw an opportunity. Cards could be produced in large numbers and sold to the public. This made Valentine's Day accessible to more people. You no longer needed artistic skills or time to create a message. You could simply choose a card that expressed your feelings. This convenience helped the holiday grow rapidly, especially in Europe and North America. Along with cards, gifts became more common. Flowers, especially roses, gained strong symbolic meaning. Chocolates became popular as treats associated with pleasure and sweetness. Over time, hearts and playful characters appeared everywhere, creating visual symbols of love. This period marked the beginning of commercialization. Shops advertised special items, and Valentine's Day became an important event for businesses. This shift created mixed feelings. On one hand, more people could participate. On the other hand, some felt that love was becoming something you had to buy. Still, the holiday continued to spread beyond its original borders. As cultures interacted through trade and communication, Valentine's Day reached new countries, each adding its own customs and interpretations. Today, Valentine's Day looks very different depending on where you are in the world. In some places, it is focused mainly on romantic partners. Couples exchange gifts, go out for meals, and plan memorable moments. Schools sometimes include children in simple celebrations, teaching kindness and sharing. In other regions, traditions take unique forms. In parts of Asia, for example, giving and receiving gifts can happen on different days, creating a sense of balance and expectation. In some cultures, Valentine's Day is not limited to romantic love at all. Friends exchange messages, families share appreciation, and people take time to show care in small ways. Social media has also transformed how the day is celebrated. Public messages, photos, and stories allow people to share their experiences widely. This can be joyful for some and overwhelming for others, but it shows how deeply the holiday is connected to modern communication. Let me share a realistic example here. Imagine a young professional living far from family, busy with work and daily stress. Valentine's Day arrives, and instead of focusing on romance, this person sends a message to an old friend who once offered support during a difficult time. That simple message strengthens a bond that matters deeply.
This moment reflects how the meaning of Valentine's Day has expanded beyond its original boundaries. In recent years, views on Valentine's Day have continued to change. Some people fully embrace it, enjoying the chance to celebrate love openly. Others criticize it for being too commercial or creating pressure. These opinions can exist at the same time, and that is important to understand. Love is personal, and not everyone experiences or expresses it in the same way. Modern ideas about love now include self-respect, emotional health, and appreciation for different types of relationships. Some people use Valentine's Day to focus on personal growth, rest, or creativity. Others celebrate friendships or family bonds. These approaches remind us that love is not limited to one shape or one story. Here's another short story to think about. Picture someone who once felt lonely on Valentine's Day because they believed it was only for couples. Over time, they redefine the day. They cook a favorite meal, write a thoughtful note to themselves, and reflect on progress made in life. What once felt painful becomes meaningful. This change shows how traditions can adapt to personal needs. As society continues to evolve, Valentine's Day continues to shift with it. There is no single correct way to celebrate. What matters is intention and connection. Love does not need grand gestures to be real. Small actions, honest words, and shared moments often carry the greatest value. When we look back at the long history of Valentine's Day, we see a journey from ancient traditions focused on health and community. It absorbed stories of sacrifice and courage, grew through poetry and imagination, expanded through technology and commerce, and finally became a global symbol of many kinds of love. Understanding this journey helps us appreciate the day in a deeper way, whether we celebrate it loudly or quietly. If you found this exploration helpful, take a moment to reflect on what love means in your own life. And if you enjoy learning English through real stories like this, make sure to stay connected with English Highlights. You can support the channel by liking the video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more stories that make language and history come alive.